need it.
I said no.
Why not? Why should you not? You should be.
No, I'm thirsty. No. I have to. Well, no.
One more try, then we're in front of you again.
What's it work on it?
Off and on. It's been an adventure.
Okay.
Come on, you can do it. You can do it.
Stay calm. Stay calm. Patricia.
You, sir.
Patricia. Stay calm.
You're done.
Hey, Patricia, I need you to calm down right now.
You're not allowed to call me Patricia.
Holy, there you go.
What's this working?
It's getting one out there. Yeah, I agree.
No, thanks for that.
Alright, starting off here, we got the square root of -1 is equal to I. This will be review stuff for you. And then I squared is equal to -1. So in the past, when we've seen a negative underneath the square root symbol, we've been able to write not real. Don't get to do that anymore now, though. We've got to include the I in it. So all this is telling you is that anytime you see a square root or a fourth root or a sixth root or an eighth root, etc., notice those were all even numbers. If you've got an even number root and there's a negative underneath the radical, you're just bringing an I out because that is imaginary, like Michael said.
Bam.
Okay? Everybody good on that? Alright, so Alright, so we'll look at a few of these here to get us started. We got several things to talk about. I got square root of -100. Then I've got square root, negative square root of -36. Y'all be quiet. Square root of -2 and square root of -54. These are the four problems that we're looking at. Okay, first off, every one of them is a square root and they've all got a negative underneath them, so we're going to have an I in every single answer. That needs to become automatic. Okay, you see a square root, a fourth root, and an even root with a negative underneath it, you're bringing an I out. So I know that this negative means I'm going to have an I out here. Is 100 then a perfect square? Something times itself equal 100? 10. So my answer here is just 10I, and that's it. Okay, that negative stuck the I on the end. It's that easy. Okay? Alright, so what about that second one that's got a negative stuck out in front?
6. Could be
Is it?
6.
Very good. Just means our answer will have a negative stuck in front. This gets me 6I. This gets me a negative. Dog, y'all are good. Alright. What about -2? What's the square root of -2? Say it again.
2's not a perfect square.
2's not a perfect square. Good. So it doesn't come out as a whole number. Will it break down?
Yes. Eventually.
No, not into a whole number. So we'll just have our I, and then it'll be a square root of +2. Okay? Alright, what about that last one? Is 54 a perfect square?
No.
No, good. Can that break down? Is there a perfect square that'll go evenly into 54?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? The biggest one? 9, very good. This is the same as, I'm going to write this, so I haven't written it yet, but this is the same as negative 1 times 9 times 6, right? Why 9? Because it's a perfect square. So the square root of negative 1, there's your I. Done with that. Square root of 9. 3. Done with that. What about 6? Can that break down?
Negative.
Correct. So it stays in the house. That's your answer.
Yeah.
Rocking and rolling. All right, this next set of problems that we're going to look at are the ones that most people will miss, and I understand why they'd miss it, but that still means it's still wrong, just because I understand why it's wrong, why you miss it. But got what we need there? All right, negative 3, square root of negative 3 times the square root of negative 7. I'll have people see this, and this will be a choice on the test, and they'll tell me that the answer to this is the square root of 21.
They're wrong.
Zane is correct. That is wrong. It makes sense because you look underneath the radical and you say negative 3 times negative 7 is a positive 21. So I get why you think that, but that's the wrong order to go in when you're simplifying this. You got to take your eyes out first on something like this. Okay? So this is the same as I square root of 3 times I square root of 7. Now here you're going to get that 21 from there. And then what Grace just pointed out is here you've got an I times an I, which is I squared. Now, first thing you wrote down, what's I squared the same as?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. So that's the same as negative square root of 21.
Oh, that's pretty new stuff out there.
They were almost right. They just need to put negative.
Yep, miss that negative. It's a big difference, though. A little bitty thing is a big difference, especially if you're talking about moolah. Money, money, money. Me too, I just don't have any. Alright, this one we got the square root of negative 40 divided by the square root of 10. Y'all simmer down. Same rules as on the last one. We've got to take care of the I first if there is one. So the numerator, I've got to rewrite that as I square root of 40. Now, after you do that, you've got a choice on where you want to go next. Do you want to go ahead and just divide the 40 divided by 10, and that's legal? Pretty easy because everybody knows 40 divided by 10. Or do you want to break down the 40 first? Because it can break down, it's got a perfect square in it. Doesn't matter. We'll get the same answer either way. If it's easy divisible like that one, I usually do that first. So we all right if I just divide? Okay. So 40 divided by 10 we know is 4. So I got I square root of 4. And then what's the square root of 4? So 2I would be our final answer. Let me go ahead and show you for a few of you. If I wanted to broken this down first, biggest perfect square that'll go into 40 is 4. So that'd be the same as I square root of 4 times 2. Whoa, dumb butt. 4 times 10 makes 40. 4 times 2 makes 8, not 40. Square root of 4 is 2. So I got 2I square root of 10. On the bottom, I still got square root of 10. So you get the same answer. I don't know if, I kind of think the first way we did it was simpler, but it's up to you. Grace concurs. Alright, these next couple of problems are the easiest kind of today, even easier than this stuff. Hard to believe, but it's the truth. I got negative 1 minus 8I. No, that wasn't the right word to say. Plus 9 minus 3I. Alright, write that problem down, then somewhere off to the side or up above or somewhere where you got some spare room, we've got to add a little side note to accompany this here. Standard form of a complex number is A plus BI. A standard form of a complex number. All that means the A is the real number. It doesn't have an I. It comes first. BI's got an I. So the imaginary part comes second. Okay, that's standard form. Put the real number first. It can be minus also. I just want to be a positive person and use the plus sign. But all right, so all we're doing here when we're told to flashing neon sign there, add these, is just add your like terms. So add your real numbers. -1 plus 9 is 8. Add your imaginary numbers. -8i plus -3i is -11i. And that's it.
Hey, gotcha.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I missed this one.
Alright, we'll do a subtraction one just because, but you do it the same way. Find it good in here. -1 plus 2i minus 4 plus I. Alright, same deal. We're subtracting, so we're just going to subtract our like terms. So I got -1 minus 4. Uh-huh. Then I got 2i minus I. Ah, very good. And that's it. Okay, we've added and subtracted. We all right? We all right? Let's look at multiply. Find the nurse? Did you find the nurse? Good. Sometimes they're hard to locate. 6i times 4 plus 3i. All right, here we got a monomial, 6i, times a binomial, 4 plus 3i. Just like in middle school stuff, when we got a monomial times a binomial, we're just going to distribute. So same thing here, the i's don't change that. So first I would go there, 6i times 4. What do I got? 24i is correct. Then I would be here, 6i times 3i. 18i squared. Now we can't circle that, we're not done yet. Where do you see we can do something, some cleaning up to?
We can break from blank.
We can switch it so the I squared is something.
Okay, we are going to have to do some switching to get in standard form in a minute, so keep Dustin's comment in mind. Before that though, what's I squared the same as?
Negative.
-1. So this means 18 times -1. So that's 24i minus 18. Right? Now I'm ready for what Dustin said and Chase said to get it in standard form. We're just going to flip it, put the real number first. -18 plus 24i. Shazam. Alright, so that was a monomial times a binomial. Let's do a binomial and a binomial. Got what we need there? Rocking and rolling, 6 minus 4i times 2 plus 4i. Alright, we got a two-termer times a two-termer, a binomial times a binomial. What do we need to do?
Need to distribute.
Distribute, good. Any other way to say that? That's
FOIL.
right. FOIL will be an acronym that I use, but distributing is the same thing. So I would have a 12. Then I distribute 6 here, and I would have a 24i. Done with the 6, so I'm going to the -4i now. That will get me -8i. And then here will get me -16i squared. Because that I times an I is your I squared. 95% of the time when you FOIL or distribute, you can combine the middle terms. We can combine our middle terms here. 24i minus 8i is 16i. Say that again. Okay, very good. Grace already got this for me. This I squared, remember, is -1. So -16 times -1 is a positive 16. Good. Combine those like terms. Be 28. You got it, dude. You got it. Sign y'all up for the Math Olympics.
I don't know.
Yeah, there actually is.
There's some smart people too,
The Winter Olympics start next month. I'm so excited for all of the
but I
Olympics.
just do.
I don't like it, but they go like that.
Special.
I win every time.
That didn't make sense. So,
I just don't.
oh, you don't like her so much. Alright, so we've had subtract, multiply. What would be next? You're right, division. This one says 6 plus 2i divided by 4 minus 3i. Alright, so like it is, 6 plus 2i divided by 4 minus 3i. Like it is, you can't simplify that any. Somebody might say, well, on the top you could factor a 2 out, and you could, but that wouldn't do me any good because I still wouldn't be able to ninja anything because it's got to be the whole thing or nothing. So I really can't do anything like that. But complex numbers share a lot of the rules of radicals. You can't leave a radical on bottom. Can't leave an I on bottom. So we got...
Can we do the thing that we did with the radical?
You bet your boots out of boy, Dustin. We can do just like we did with the radical and multiply this by its difference of squares, buddy, which we called the conjugate, which would be 4 plus 3i. Whatever we do on bottom, we got to do on top. Okay, now, just made this into a lot of multiplication because you got a foil on top and foil on bottom now. So get your aluminum out and get going. That was dumb. Thanks, Grace. 24, 18i, 8i, 6i squared. Hey, let me go ahead and clean all that up before I multiply the bottom. That'll be 26i. This will be minus 6. So 24 minus 6 will be 18. Is that what y'all got for the numerator?
Yeah.
Makes sense? Alright, now when we start foiling on the denominator, should see those i's canceling out. Remember, that's the whole point that we do this, like Dustin said. So we get a 16. Check this out. Positive 12i, negative 12i. They gone. Negative 9i squared. But I squared is the same as negative 1. So that means this really says
25.
16 plus 9, which is 25, as Dustin said. I circled that, that's it. Sometimes this will reduce. If 25 had been an even number, I could have reduced that, but it doesn't there, so that's all. Now, that one we divided by a binomial, 2 terms on the bottom. If you're just dividing by a monomial, it's the next one we're going to do, it's a lot easier. Because remember when we did the square roots, like if it was just a square root of 5 on bottom, we just multiply it by the square root of 5. You just multiply it by itself. So it'll be the same deal with the i's. So if I got 5 minus I divided by I, what could I multiply this dude by to get rid of the I on bottom? And I just told you.
Yes.
Attaboy. Multiply top and bottom by I. Because on the bottom, I times I is I squared, which is negative 1. So we got rid of that I on bottom. You alright on that? On the top, we need to distribute 5i minus I squared. I squared is the same as negative 1, so minus negative 1 makes it a plus 1. It's not in standard form. Flip the I and the 1, right? Oh, just say Grace and I'll get your question on. Alright, where are you at? You were giving me a look like there was fixing to be a
Well,
question.
because I looked down to right directions and I looked back up in the board school. So it wouldn't be a negative I on the bottom you would multiply by? It would just be a regular.
You could multiply by a negative I, you could, but it's easier just to multiply by what's already down there.
Okay, so for the conjugate.
We only have to do the conjugate when it's 2 terms on bottom.
Okay. So you just gotta multiply it by itself.
Alright, this is right, and I'm alright with this. But on your assignment next week or test coming up, that won't be a choice. You can divide both of those by -1, and that'll be what the choice would say. Silly wabbit.
Tricks are pretty good.
Never did like tricks, but I always.
I don't think I've ever eaten tricks.
Oh, I never did like.
I like to get salty and
I eat cinnamon toast crunch.
I always liked
I
Captain
don't
Crunch.
do-
Like that. I liked fruity, not Fritos. What's the one with the marshmallows? Lucky Charms.
I like those. That's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
marshmallows. I don't like when Lucky Charms are stale and the marshmallows are chewy.
Alright, we got one more thing to talk about, and this makes complete perfect sense, but it's confusing. So we're going to make a chart about it and see what happens. This will be called, the chart, you can put a little heading on it, it's called the powers of I. Alright, we've already talked about that one. I squared's -1. Shh. You with me? So what would I cubed be? Okay, I'm going to show some steps on how to get that. I cubed is the same as I squared times I, isn't it? Wouldn't 2 and 1 make 3? Right? It's not too deep right there. But what's I squared the same as? So this is the same as -1 times I, which would be -I. Okay? And we're going to grow this. We've got second, third. We're going to grow this several down and then see if we can figure the pattern out. Okay? So there's I second, I to the third, I to the fourth. We're going to base it on everyone's power above it. Okay? So I to the fourth will be the same as I to the third times I.
That's -2.
I to the third is -I. Right? So I got -I times I, which is I times I is I squared. So -I squared. What's I squared the same as?
-1.
-1. -1 is
1.
okay. I to the fifth. I to the fifth is the same as I to the fourth times I. I to the fourth is 1. So I got 1 times I, which is I. We're almost done until we start looking for a pattern. Want to go at least one more. I to the sixth is the same as I to the fifth times I. I to the fifth was I. So I times I is I squared is -1. Okay, slam the brakes on. What was the first one that we started off with? -1. We're back to -1. That does keep repeating that way. -1, -I, 1I. -1, -I, 1I. -1, -I, 1I. So it keeps cycling that way. How many answers did we cycle through each time? 1, 2, 3, 4. Right?
We went to I power 6 for 1 and 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's from 6 to 2. Right. Good, Dustin. That was a good way to say it. So every fourth power, it'll start repeating itself. Right? So let's say I wanted to know what I to the 12th would be. Okay, I could keep my chart going, make an I to the 7th, make an I to the 8th, and so forth. But since I know they're going to do it every fourth power, this is the same as I to the 4th to the 3rd, right? What's I to the 4th? 1. So this will be 1 to the 3rd. 1 times 1 times 1. I to the fourth, we went and looked and saw that I to the fourth was 1, so we did 1 to the third. Okay? Let's do one where it's an odd number, so you got to figure something out leftover wise. How about I? This is a big one. I. Doesn't it go back, Grace?
Yes.
You got it. Alright, I to the 39th is what we're looking at. 4 doesn't go evenly into 39. So I wonder what's the biggest number that that 4 will go evenly into that I could rewrite this with here. What's something pretty close to 39 below it? We can't pass it. Below it, that 36 would be the closest one. So this will be the same as I to the 36. Now, to get a 39, it would have to be multiplication because you add those, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now 36, we were talking about 4s. That is I to the 4th to the 9th.
I was thinking 6 to 6.
That would work, except remember, 4s are important on this because that's how it repeats. Remember, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it started over.
Yeah.
All right, so what's I to the 4th? Look at your chart. I'm looking at Grace's. It says 1. So I got 1 to the 9th, which would be 1. What's I cubed? Grace's says negative I. So my answer for I to the 39th would be negative I.
It's more complicated than I thought.
That's the end of it for today, though. It's nothing worse than that. We do. I'm looking for a good one to give you right now.
I know a good one.
What's that? Let's do one I've already done. Well, that was it. Oh, this will be an easier one. Alright, that's going to be your exit question. I'll get it showing up to you in just a second. You got to tell me what I to the 28th is equivalent to.
Good, my head. Shut up. Your camera's still on, by the way.
Okay, thanks. I think about what he was saying. Alright, just show it up in mine if you're ready to type your answer, refresh it and see.